Knowing God, Part 14, The Means of Grace. A review of Calvin's Institutes of the Christian Religion. We began this review by asking the question, how do we know the unknowable God? We looked at the creation stories in Genesis where Adam and Eve enjoyed the presence of God in the Garden of Eden until they rebelled against God and broke God's commandment. Our first parents were expelled from the garden and from the presence of God to live east of the Garden of Eden. We traced God's faithfulness as God sought to establish his covenant with humanity. That is, to be their God and they to be his people, and whose purpose in life was to glorify God and enjoy him forever. God gave Moses the law as a means of reconciliation, and when humankind proved unable to fulfill any of the law, God sent Christ, the Word, to fulfill the law for humankind who was not quite up to the challenge. Christ, the second Adam, is the means God has decreed to bestow grace upon humanity, thereby returning all children of second Adam back to the garden. Through Christ, God reconciles us and returns us back into the family fold. Calvin phrases the question thusly: how do we receive those benefits which the Father bestowed on his only begotten Son, not for Christ's own private use, but that he might enrich poor and needy men? Now, I'm not going to go into the benefits with which Christ was bestowed, but refer you to the chapter on the two natures of Christ in Part 13. Calvin declares that as long as Christ remains outside of us and we are separated from him, all that he has suffered and done for the salvation of the human race remains useless and of no value for us. Therefore, Calvin continues, to share with us what he has received from the Father, he had to become ours and to dwell within us. Calvin refers to Ephesians as the basis for this argument. But speaking truth in love, writes Paul, we must grow up in every way into him who is the head, into Christ. And the firstborn within a large family, Paul writes to the Romans, and to be clothed with Christ in his letter to the Galatians. I like Jesus' words to his disciples from John 15. I am the true vine and my Father is the vine grower. Grafting is a great illustration of how we become part of Christ and each other as his church. This is the means of receiving God's nourishment through ingrafting into the true vine, Jesus Christ. This is the means to grace. We must be attached in a life-giving way to Christ, or have Christ dwell within us, and we become his children, part of the family of God. Today we'll take a little closer look at the means of grace. The journey from the garden through the fall and then to the reception of the law through Moses and the sending of Jesus Christ is empowered by the third person of the Trinity, the Holy Spirit. As I have said earlier, the Trinity is a Christian doctrine based on Scripture's description of one God in three persons. Calvin teaches that it is by the Spirit that Christ dwells within us, for he came by water and the blood, in order that the Spirit may witness concerning him. That's from 1 John chapter 5. Calvin teaches that the Holy Spirit is
Stop it.
Where's the rest of it?
Yeah, stop that. I can.